Everyone, welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Perry. It's episode 126. We're going to get Perry on the line in just a second. Tonight we're going to be talking about the No Kings protests, Kami Mamdani, Gaza, crybaby Bobby De Niro, and Trump winning in the courts as well. So let's see if we can't get Perry on the line.
Hello.
Hey Perry, welcome once again to another edition of Tuesdays with Perry. One more time here on Tuesday night. How is it going down there in sunny Florida this evening?
Rudy, as the old Milwaukee commercial went, it don't get any better than that. It's really beautiful down here. It's that time of year for us Floridians that we can come out from our formerly air-conditioned buildings and enjoy God's fresh air. It's beautiful here.
Nice. We've had some pretty good weather up here lately too. Not a lot of rain, which doesn't do my grass very well, but otherwise very pleasant and sunny. Let's start off with No Kings. So the No Kings protests, thousands of locations, supposedly 7 million people turned out, but we're really not sure if they had a unified message. Apparently they were all over the place, and the media said that that's a good thing. I don't know if that's a good thing. It was light on policy and heavy on theatrics. What was your take on the protests from Saturday?
It, in my opinion, was stereotypical liberalism. Everybody walking in different directions, yet becoming a circle jerk. It was the good view of it is it was peaceful for the most part, with the exception of one or two people that made the news. And look, people like you and I, and those who think like us, I support their ability to go out there and protest and say whatever the hell they want. Just stay within the boundaries of the law. And it looks like Sunday, that's what they did, or Saturday. They behaved themselves. And that's a welcome change from the past 5 years. I don't, as you just said, most of them were there to have a good time. I watched a lot of citizen journalists' reports on X, and, they just walked up with a microphone in their hand and asked the question, what are you protesting here today? Trump. Well, what is it about Trump's policies that you don't like? Well, I just don't like him. And when pushed to answer the question again, they had no answer. And this is pretty much what their movement is. It's the reason why the Democrats are completely not only befuddled, they're lost. They, as I said back in November, if they don't get their proverbial poop in one boot, they're going to be a lost party come November of 2026, and they're living up to that expectation of mine. And so one other thing that I noticed, and this is where you can tell people were being paid or people were there for the purpose of expressing their passion. After two hours of protest, the crowd thinned out to a bare skeleton of people. And that seemed to be what went on all over the country, where there were large groups, like in New York and Chicago. So what can we attribute this to? It was Rent-A-Mob Day, and it's AstroTurf. When people were asked by these citizen journalists, they couldn't respond coherently as to why they were there, what purpose the day was serving for them, and it goes back to everything you and I have been saying. They're lost. And most of these people who said, well, I hate Trump. I don't like Trump. Okay, you don't like Trump. Why else are you here? No answers. So it was a bunch of nothing. As sometimes we say, it was a nothing burger. Where they're coming up with a number of 7 million people is beyond me. New York City supposedly produced 100,000 people. That was the largest crowd in the country. I didn't see any groups. Now, granted, I live in Central Florida. I didn't see any groups. I didn't go down to downtown Orlando. Maybe they had a couple thousand people there. I don't know.
Yeah. And you heard about MSNBC using footage from another protest this time too, right?
Actually, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, MSNBC ran footage, I think, from a protest in June, and people recognized it right away. So they again, using faulty footage. And to add a little bit to what you said about it being peaceful, it wasn't that peaceful for the simple reason is that LA and Portland and a little bit in Seattle did have arrests. So there were some aspects of it that wasn't exactly peaceful. And like you said, where do you come up with 7 million people? That's from the organizers of the event.
And we can trust their numbers as much as we can trust the journalism of PMSNBC.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that's the strange part of it. Again, no unified message, more of a carnival atmosphere, which is, not surprising from liberals and progressives who just want to go out there and represent their identity or whatever they're doing. But as a unified message, like if they were protesting for healthcare or something, just anti-Trump policy. If it was policy, I don't think enforcing the law is enforcing the law an administration policy, or is it just de facto the way governments are supposed to behave? You're supposed to enforce the law. So, like I said, there were a few people that had problems with the National Guard being deployed. They called them troops, and if they're serving within the interior, they're guardsmen. They're not troops. They're the National Guard. So they're there to restore order. And to my knowledge, they haven't really been used much to do much anything. So I don't know what people are so upset about. So, yeah, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
I was just going to further your point. And where they have been deployed and either asked for or accepted, as in the case of Muriel Bowser in Washington, D.C. In D.C., in Memphis, where they've been where the Guard has been embraced, people are happy. We could reiterate what was discussed last week on your show, where mothers are saying, my children can now play in the backyard for the first time in their lives. And so the more they protest this, and I'm talking about cities like Portland, Seattle, New York, Chicago, the more the Democrats are alienating themselves from the people they're supposed to represent. Because sorry about that, Rudy. I'm driving and somebody literally just pulled out in front of me and the vehicle on my left lane without even acknowledging. So anyway, getting back to the point. So this is all backfired. Now, of course, it's not being reported that way by the lame-brain media. And quite frankly, I don't care. I don't care. Trump is winning. And best of all, and more importantly than Trump winning, the American people are winning. And that's what matters. So furthering on that point, you got baby back ribs up there in Chicago, and his man-child of a mayor in Chicago who are now going to start getting heckled. And because Trump won in the courts this week, or I should say last week, with regard to being able to disperse troops as guardsmen throughout the country wherever he sees necessary, their game is over. They're done. Whether they want the troops, I'm sorry, I don't want to use their term, whether they want the Guard or not, the Guard are going to be there. And they're going to help police reinstate law and order. And that's what this is all about. And when you look at people that live in the south side of Chicago that are being interviewed, they're saying, we want more. We want more. We want our city back. And so I just chuckle, because that coinciding with the Democrats keeping the government locked down is going to further alienate them from the people. You know, I think it was Crooms was on one of the Fox News Channel shows, and he was taken to the cleaners. I forget who. It may have been Martha McCallum that was interviewing him. And she called him out when he said the Republicans have shut down. Well, no, the Republicans have made it clear they're ready to reopen the government. They just need a handful of Democrats in the Senate to come over and vote to reopen the government. And he kept saying, no, 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 they're the ones that shut it down. And it turned into a heated discussion. And finally, he had to say, okay, well, obviously we don't agree. And that was the end of the interview. And so all of this, again, plays right into Trump's hands once they capitulate. And I think it's going to come soon. I honestly believe there's probably going to be a successful vote in the Senate by this coming weekend, because the whole reason why they refused to reopen the government was in anticipation of the No Kings March. Well, that didn't work for them. People are getting more and more angry. And, you know, there's a YouTuber who is a commentator on videos that people, you know, just put up on their own channel. And he's getting a lot of his followers sending him YouTubes of welfare mothers who are now saying, if I don't get my EBT on the first of the month, I'm just going to steal food.
Yep.
Well, who's going to be blamed for that? It ain't going to be Donald Trump. It ain't going to be John Thune. It isn't going to be the Republicans. It's going to be Schmucky Chucky and all the other Democrats.
Yeah.
And
that's extortion. If you're threatening to do something illegal to somebody, to the nation, because you're not going to get your way, you're not going to get money, I think that's extortion.
Well, it's extortion as far as you and I are concerned, but from the standpoint of someone who has never earned a real living and has to depend on daddy government to take care of them and their children, they're expecting daddy to bring home that check on the first of the month. And if daddy doesn't do his part, well, mama's going to do her part. She's going to feed her kids one way or the other.
Yeah.
And, you know, when they walk into Walmart or whatever store they shop at, and they just walk out with a cart and they're not stopped, people are going to be pointing the finger at the Democrats.
Yeah.
It's just going to be that simple.
Yeah, I would like them to get a job, but I understand that people need to get fed and they need to have their children fed. And I understand that. I understand poverty. So it's not like I don't understand it, but a lot of these people that I saw the same videos you're talking about, people commenting about stealing if they don't get their SNAP, and they don't look employable. Anyway,
well, they certainly aren't employable in this economy, which is rapidly leaving them in the dust from a technological standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like I said, you walk into any supermarket or discount department store anywhere in the country, they have self-checkout. Well, that is the type of job these welfare queens would normally qualify for.
Right.
But when you have to pay that person who either doesn't have a job or, worse, has never had a job, $20 an hour starting wage, and they don't know how to get their job done for you, they're not going to last very long.
Yeah.
You know, I was in BJ's yesterday doing some grocery shopping, and the cashier who checked me out was probably a man either of my age or very close to my age. And he was beside himself because they had just gotten done hiring these young people. They're starting at $17 an hour, and every 15 minutes they would disappear. Nobody in the store knew where they were.
Oh, yeah.
And then when he finally could track them down, okay, but I'm going on break. I'll come back and help you in 15 minutes. And then they wouldn't show up to the station to help him. This is the kind of low-end employee that is now screaming, or quality employee that is now screaming about, I'm going to steal if I can't get my EBT. And it goes back to what I said 2 minutes ago, Rudy. This could have been avoided. The Democrats choose to play hardball. Well, they're about to get the short end of the stick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but usually this is a conservative tactic, and because it plays into the hands of conservatives, because conservatives don't want to spend federal dollars. So if you close down the government, you're helping conservatives. And now you have Trump and Russell Vogt and others saying, oh, you know, well, this is going to give us an opportunity to end programs that the Democrats like and to gut those programs and to fire all those federal employees. So we'll see if that happens. They have till the end of the month, and that's when the SNAP benefits run out. So then you're going to have a little riot on your hands. If they want to play hardball that way, I don't think people are going to be very appreciative.
No. And look, I see that as what is going to come. The Democrats, look, I said this, they've run out of options here. They have played their hand. They have decided this is the hill we're going to die on, and they're going to start dropping really soon. So I just say, continue to do this. You're going to further strengthen Trump's hand, because I think he's going to get an emergency decision, if he hasn't already gotten it, from the court saying, yeah, you have the right to terminate programs if you don't have any other way to pay people. And I don't know how he's done it, but by, I guess, eliminating certain programs, we're talking about moving decimal points somehow or other. He said, or the vice president said to the Marines during their 250-year celebration over the weekend, you are going to get your pay. The president has guaranteed it. And so The money has to come from somewhere. It's going to come from programs that Trump's going to eliminate. So we are getting everything we had voted for back on November 5th, and we're going to get more.
Yeah.
Because once these programs get eliminated and we have the continuing resolution, if the Democrats don't sign on to a new budget after we have the continuing resolution, they're going to lose more programs. Because right now, the government is shrinking. And I never thought I would see that in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So
he keeps,
let them continue to do it.
He keeps winning. They keep saying that he's a criminal. He's a criminal. He's an authoritarian. He's a king. He's a fascist. He's winning. What he's doing actually is legal. And as I explained today in the broadcast this morning, is that sure, there's some legal gray area and you push the envelope, but the courts have found that most of the stuff that he's doing is legal. And you have people like Robert De Niro, the actor, comes out there and trots out the same talking points from 2017. It is right. It's ridiculous. He's not going to leave office. I know he's not going to leave office. He's not going to leave office. I know he's not going to leave office. And Stephen Miller, who's Jewish, is a Nazi. Where does he get this shit? Trump is a fascist. Stephen Miller is a Nazi. And he even admitted it. I think it was MSNBC. He even admitted it on the show. I watch. He says on the news. And then he says, oh, online. You know the guy, all he does is hear shit online. And he's just regurgitating shit that he sees on X or YouTube or whatever, all from leftists. It's the same old talking points. They said this during Trump's first term. Did he leave? Right. You had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying Trump isn't going to leave the Oval Office. But he left. Not
only did he leave, he left early.
Yeah. With his classified documents.
Yeah.
That he was entitled to. He had
the right.
Yeah.
There you go. And so not only is he going to leave office when his term expires in a little more than 3 years, but more importantly, he's going to leave the White House in good hands. Because at this point, I don't see how the Democrats...
With a new ballroom.
With a gold-laced ballroom. And if I'm not mistaken, that was another thing that Schmucky Chucky brought up and threw out there over the weekend. You know, he's spending money on a ballroom for him and his cronies. And when I heard him say that, I said, "Yeah, Schmucky," and he's using private funds to do it, unlike you.
Right, exactly. Or like Gavin Newsom, who I think is a $1.5 billion renovation of the California State House. And by the way, people like Whoopi Goldberg and the other chicks on The View were saying it's the people's house. It's the people's house. No, actually, that's the Capitol where the January 6th people went. That's the people's house. That's where your representatives meet. The White House technically isn't the people's house, but for all, shits and giggles, we are in a republic. So, okay, maybe it's the people's house. But presidents before have done renovations. He's certainly equipped and qualified to do so. So
if anyone were ever qualified to do a construction project on the grounds of the White House, it is Donald John Trump.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's move.
And he'll do it in lightning speed and under budget.
Right. Right, exactly. It'll be done. And the fact is that he won't get to probably enjoy it during his term. It's going to be for future presidents. So he's actually
I wouldn't go that far, friend. if he could get the Wallman rink up and running inside of 6 months, when it took years to get the project to where it was when he finally took it over, because it was going nowhere after 6 or more years. And for those in your audience who don't know about the Wallman rink, it is in Central Park. and it's an ice skating rink.
Right.
And every year, people would flock there during Christmas time to enjoy the free ice skating. And he was upset that, this was one of the crown jewels of Midtown Manhattan, and how could we allow this to go on for years and not be running? And I want to say it was during the years of Koch. Maybe it was under Giuliani. But
no, it was Koch.
I think it was Koch.
Yep.
And he said, let me handle it. I'll get it done, and I'll get it done fast and under budget. And he did.
Yeah. And
so I'm telling you, I guarantee you this project will be done in 18 months.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
So let's hope so. So let's move to New York City since we're there. Kami Mamdani is looks like to be the next mayor. I was drawing some parallels with London. We let many immigrants into this country. Europe let many immigrants into Europe, into England. So they got a Muslim mayor in London. So now we're going to have, in their biggest city in England, and so now in our biggest city, we're going to have a Muslim mayor in New York City, which I don't really have a problem with. But this guy apparently is a communist, and, which I just learned today during my broadcast, is that, he happened to be in Egypt during
the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right, exactly. Does that not blow your mind? And of course, when the army took over, he skedaddled pretty quickly. And I drew comparisons with Barry Obama there, disappearing to Pakistan for 2 years after he graduated, high school. I think he was 19 years old. And nobody.
I think it was Indonesia. I don't think it was Pakistan.
Okay, Indonesia. Yeah, disappeared to Indonesia for a couple of years.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
Occidental College wasn't good enough for him.
Right, exactly. And then all of a sudden he's back on the scene, and he's at Columbia, and he's a lawyer, and he's a social organizer, he's a senator, and he's president. Wow, that was a meteoric rise. In any case, we're seeing a meteoric rise to our friend there, Zohan Mamdani in New York City. What's your take on this young, inexperienced Muslim taking over the biggest city in the United States?
Well, it's interesting you put it that way, because I was enjoying cigars with my Israeli Special Forces buddy tonight at the club, and that came up as part of our conversation tonight. And I asked him, because I was under the impression his mother still lived in Brooklyn. And he said, no, she lives upstate now. I said, okay, well, what about the rest of the family? Because once this Muslim takes over, you're going to have areas of the city with high concentrations of Muslims that are going to demand and receive. They already have it, but now it's going to be fully implemented. They're going to have Sharia law in parts of New York City. And you're going to see a lot of things that the Jewish community has reason to be fearful of. Now, as for why he is now pulling away, as of this past weekend, the numbers that they were showing it in Fox News, he's at 52% in the polls. And I said to my buddy, he said, no, I don't think you're right about this, Perry. And I'm pretty sure this is still in place. New York City was one of the first cities in the country to make it legal for any resident, and I'm using the term resident on purpose, any resident in New York City can have the right to vote. It is not something that can only be limited to citizens of the United States. It did go to the courts. It was argued. The law was first struck down, but on appeal, I think it was the state courts, it wasn't a federal court, said any municipality has the right to allow residents or a person of residence to qualify to vote. And that means all these illegal aliens that have a driver's license or a state-issued ID card and can show they have been living in New York City for more than 30 or 90 days will have the opportunity to vote. So when you look at it from that standpoint, and he's acting as Santa Claus, everything's going to be free. Who are they going to vote for? It's just like the welfare moms that are saying, I'm going to steal if I don't get my EBT card.
Right.
If I don't get my SNAP benefits, whatever it takes, I'm just going to steal. Well, you have someone who is running for mayor in New York City that's now saying, no, you won't have to worry about those kinds of things because I'm going to provide it all to you. So when you have people that are not even a citizen of the country having the opportunity to decide how and in New York City, you not only pay federal tax on your income, you not only pay state tax, there is an 11%, maybe higher now, 11% city income tax on top of state and federal. And if I'm a city earning taxpayer in New York City, and you're now telling me someone who has no vested interest in the well-being of the citizenry of my city and therefore my state, the opportunity to vote, to cancel my vote and get money that I paid taxes for. Well, what do you think is going to happen to New York City? And, you know, he runs around and says, it's only 2%. I'm only asking for the richest people in New York City. Now, define rich. You know, somebody making $500,000 a year living in Greenwich Village isn't a rich person. When rent in Greenwich Village for a one-bedroom loft is $5,000 to $7,000 a month. $500,000 a year gross income when you're paying federal, state, and city tax ain't going too far. You're basically making less than half of that $500,000 a year. But yet you're going to ask me to pay an additional 2% city income tax so that these people that you allowed into our city to suck off the teat of the city, state, and federal government are going to get more of my money so that they can live high on the hog? And that's what's happening. So when you look at how he's managed to play this, I have to admit, it's brilliant. It's falling right into line. However, it's going to be further ruination of the Democrat Party. You know, everybody in Washington who lives, even Schmucky Chucky and Hakeem, are scared about this guy because they know what the blowback next November is going to be on them. Yeah. When the city comes crashing down within 18 months of him taking office, they're going to be held liable for it. So,
right. And if you think, if you think crime isn't well enforced now in New York City,
well, especially when he's
under Eric
talking
Adams.
about closing the jail. He's talking about closing the jail.
Yeah. So things are going to get worse. And you said Sharia law. You know what's going to happen with that? He's not going to institute Sharia law, but he's going to give a free pass to any Muslim group who wants to go around and try to close restaurants or bodegas that sell pork. I mean, it could very well happen. And so you're going to have that mixed with an increased criminal element. I think it will come crashing down.
Yeah. I think when you make that point, it's a modest point in comparison to what the worst parts of Sharia law are. I mean, yeah, no pork, no shellfish, no liquor, okay? But Sharia law is a lot worse than that. Sharia law, you're going to you've already seen video. We've heard the stories. We've read the stories of what's happening in cities like Berlin, like Munich, like London, Amsterdam, where young women, scantily clad, but considered acceptable dress by Western standards. What I mean is short shorts where the buttocks are slightly exposed, micro skirts, tube tops. These women have been getting raped, not for a month, not for a year, but for several years. Because Muslims who are, and I'm trying to put this into proper perspective, Muslims who are anti-Western, who believe in Sharia law basically says that woman is a whore and she has to be punished. And that means she's free game. And this is the reason why so many young Western women throughout Europe, where there are so many high concentrations of Muslims, are being attacked, they're being raped, some have been killed, but it doesn't make a lot of news. Just like all the churches that were burning in France several years ago. I mean, Notre Dame was not the only church that was set ablaze, okay? Right. None of those churches that were burned really were covered by American press. That's what's coming. That's what's coming. Yeah. What you talked about is something, we're talking about dietary law and, you know, inconvenience to people who are living side by side with high concentrations of Muslims in certain pockets of New York City.
Yeah. I think
that's a lot different.
Yeah, I think it's going to start with harassment and the permissive attitude by City Hall in New York City is going to make it worse. So will we see churches being burned down? We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's move over to Gaza. So there is still a ceasefire in effect. We got Hamas doing what Hamas does. And there was an airstrike by Israel. So what's your take on Gaza? You're hopeful that the ceasefire will hold and the peace deal will continue. We could get into the other phase. I know Israel is still waiting for the remains of some of the hostages. So we're kind of in a wait and see attitude. What's your take on that?
That was another subject that came up tonight briefly. And, you know, my friend just kind of shrugged his shoulders and he said, well, what did you expect? And I believe that the ceasefire, for the most part, has to hold because there has been this sea of humanity that went from the southern portion of the Strip and marched on foot back to Gaza City. You can't send in the cavalry to where there are that many innocent civilians. So the Arab nations have made it clear they're not going to put Troop 1 on the ground until they feel the objective can be achieved, meaning being able to bring civil order back to the Strip. So that ultimately means it's up to Israel. And I think the Israelis are going to hold off on the most part. They're going to do these independent strikes. There'll probably be special forces that are sent in to root out these wolf packs wherever they may be able to find them. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a decision that's made between Bibi and the president. And at a certain point, you know, Trump is going to say enough. He made it clear a week and a half ago. They're not going to be able to play this wait and see game with me. They have to put their arms down now. Well, that was almost a week and a half ago. It was not this past Sunday. It was the Sunday before. How long is he going to wait? I don't know. But at a certain point, he's going to say, as I said on a prior show in the last couple of weeks, Phoebe, go do whatever you got to do. That's what it's going to end up being. Right now, there are militias that have formed that are anti-Hamas because these people have had enough.
Yeah,
they're done with Hamas, and I think, if anything, the Israelis. If I were the Israelis, what I would be doing right now is trying to find the leadership of these individual militias and go to those leaders and say, we'll give you the intelligence, we'll give you whatever arms you need to protect yourselves and those that you're trying to protect. Go do what you got to do. We'll have your back. And maybe, just maybe, the Palestinians can restore order on their own.
Yeah,
it's a pipe dream, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
You would hope, because you already saw Hamas executing hostages or prisoners from these militias that they accused of working with Israel. So what you suggested might already be going on. Will Hamas put down their arms? I doubt it. Will they disarm? I doubt it. And I think that's going to prolong the whole thing.
Rudy, I lost you.
Yep, I think I lost you for a minute there too. So I
don't know if you're hearing me.
Yeah, can you hear me now, buddy? So,
Rudy?
Yeah, I can't hear.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, so I just said that I don't think Hamas is going to put down their arms.
I look, if you were Hamas, would you put down your arms? Where are you going to go? Nobody wants you. Your own people don't want you. Saudi Arabia certainly isn't going to have you. Egypt will not take you. I know Jordan won't take them. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go?
Right. I think
so.
Yeah.
They don't have much of a choice but to fight it out.
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to individual militants deciding, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Correct. And I think that's where this is going to go. And I think that's the reason why the Israelis and President Trump are sitting back, because there is a civil war taking place inside of Gaza right now. And, going back to these militias, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And the way these militias are looking at it is, I'm tired of being bullied. I'm tired of members of my family being carried off and being slaughtered. I'm tired of being starved. I'm tired. I can't go any further. It's either fight for my freedom or die. And that's where a lot of these Palestinian militia people are coming from. It's not like what we have with the war with Hamas. It's different.
Yeah.
Now we'll see. We'll see.
We'll hope. I would hope that Hamas goes the way of the PLO and just becomes a political organization and not a militant organization, because that's not going to work. And it hasn't worked out. It's brought suffering. Because people don't understand, before this whole thing, before October 7th, Hamas was still shooting rockets into Israel. As soon as Hamas got elected to run Gaza, within a month after the election, they were shooting rockets.
Right. And look, they have never ever signed on to a two-state solution. That's where the chant originated from the river to the sea. About, we will take the land no matter if we have to fight to the last man, we will take the land back. And when you're dealing with a fanatic who can't see it any other way but their way, well, it's either you or him. And, you know, that's what October 7th, 2023 was all about. And so,
well,
look,
to quote a Liam Neeson movie, Taken, a quote from that movie, good luck. Because you saw where you've seen where that got him.
Yeah.
So whatever you think about October 7th, you know, BB's plan was dusted off, and you know it was a full out assault on Hamas, and that's what you get now. Gaza is a pile of rubble.
Yeah, the only thing I don't agree with you on is Hamas having to put down their arms and become just a political party. Their opportunity to be a political party has ended, just like the American Nazi Party's opportunity to be a political party in this country ended prior to World War II.
Right.
And they are evil. There is no hope for them when it comes to their understanding of humanity. And it's time for those who are willing to live in peace to step up. But as I've already said twice during our conversation tonight, Rudy, the question is, where are these remaining soulless animals going to go? I think that's what they're most afraid of, because they've been given the choice. First, lay down your weapons. If you want to renounce what your party has stood for the past quarter century, you can stay. If you're not willing to renounce, and also you have to face the music, because when a civil society returns to Gaza, whether it's in the next few months or few years, however long it takes, you're going to have to answer for your crimes. You know, I hearken back to the Nuremberg trials. They're going to have to face their own justice with their own people.
Right.
I don't think they want to do that either, but that's up to them to decide.
Yeah,
I'm sure there will be some a political party.
Yeah.
They can't be a political party that has any say in the future of the Palestinian people. They can't.
Right. I agree. I imagine there's going to be some sort of reconciliation, but one step at a time. That's the way I look at it. All right, Perry, any last words before we close out here?
No, not tonight. I think enough things are going to take place between tonight and next Tuesday. We'll have plenty to talk about.
All right, man. Thanks for joining me tonight. Episode 126 of Tuesdays with Perry. I appreciate you, my friend, and we'll talk next week.
Looking forward to it, my friend. Be well, stay well, and keep a smile on your face.
All right. Keep your, what do they say? Keep your powder dry and your pecker hard.
Exactly. All right, my friend. Take care now.
We'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
There goes Perry. Episode 126 of Tuesdays with Perry. Thanks for joining us tonight. Talked about a lot of things. Robert De Niro causing a scene. That guy is just kind of hanging up. All in conjunction with the No Kings. Talked about Kami Mandami, or Mamdani, the next mayor of New York City. Talked about Gaza, Hamas, and more winning by President Donald Trump. Thanks for joining us tonight. See you next week, or you can join me tomorrow. Join me tomorrow. Rudy's Revelation. Live stream 10 a.m. on Rumble. Peace out.